Now we are about to dig into the company presentations, and we'll start with Peter Zerhouni from InDex, who will give us an update on his company and whereabouts you are. Thank you, Peter. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Zerhouni. I'm the CEO of InDex Pharmaceuticals since a year back now. And I'm here to present our lead asset, cobitolimod, which I think quite a few of you know as Capaproct, but I'll explain why we are changing the name now. It's a first-in-class immunotherapeutic for inflammatory bowel disease. And InDex, we're based here at Karolinska Institutet Science Park. The research also originates from Karolinska Institutet. And as I said, our lead asset is called cobitolimod. We're developing it for ulcerative colitis, and we're now in late-stage clinical development. We are planning a phase 2b dose range study, which was recently approved by the FDA. And as I said, we used to call cobitolimod Capaproct, but in February this year, we got cobitolimod approved by the WHO as the INN name for the asset. So that's why we are using that name now. In addition to cobitolimod or Capaproct, we have a broad portfolio of preclinical stage assets from the same technology platform. We call it the DIMS platform. DIMS stands for DNA-based immunomodulatory sequences. Little snippets of single-stranded DNA, you can see a picture there, which we use to modulate the immune system. So it has potential in various inflammatory diseases. We're privately held. Our largest shareholders are SEB Venture Capital and Industrifonden. Together they control about 65% of the shares. And in addition to strong owners, we have a very experienced board and management team, if I may say so. Ulcerative colitis is a debilitating disease with high unmet medical need. It's a chronic inflammation of the colon, which leads, and it comes and goes in active and inactive stages. And when you're in an active stage or in a flare, you have this blood and mucus mixed diarrhea. And I think the patient quote we have here tells you, well, everything you need to know about how difficult this disease can be. So at worst, I had 58 toilet visits in one day. Then it was mostly just blood. 37-year-old man who's had UC for 11 years describing a flare. And you can also see the picture here, a healthy colon versus an ulcerative colon. And of course, if the colon is one big sore, it doesn't function anymore. And that's when you get these difficult symptoms. So that's where cobitolimod comes in. We have achieved clinical proof of concept with the substance in moderate to severe ulcerative colitis with a higher efficacy than the currently approved biologics, meaning primarily the anti-TNF alphas. And this has been achieved with a fairly low dose and infrequent dosing, and there's definitely room to increase both the dose strength and the dose frequency, where we've now treated about 250 patients, and we've never had any difference between the active group and the control arm in any of our clinical studies when it comes to safety. We also have an extensive preclinical tox package which supports up to 10 times higher dose than we had in our most recent clinical studies. So we don't think we've reached the maximum efficacy here yet. And we are planning now this FDA-approved phase 2b study to really optimize the dose regimen. So the aim of the trial is to get a substantially higher efficacy than we've shown ourselves in our previous study, which would also mean a higher efficacy than the currently approved biologics, and also higher than the late-stage industry pipeline. Oh, you can't really see, but it says that it's a first-in-class toll-like receptor 9 agonist. So it's an oligonucleotide, a short snippet of DNA, which activates toll-like receptor 9 when administered on mucosal surfaces. Toll-like receptor 9 is the innate immune system's pattern recognition receptor for microbial DNA. So really what we've done here is to build a snippet of DNA which looks to the body like microbial DNA, thanks to this central CPG motif there. And depending on the sequence on the either side of that microbial motif, we can steer the immune system towards a pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory response. And in our case, of course, we want an anti-inflammatory response with a lot of IL-10 and type 1 interferons. So that's in the theory and in the test tube. This is from our latest clinical study. We call it the COLLECT study. It recruited 130 subjects with moderate to severe active ulcerative colitis. And they were in active stage despite a lot of medication. So all of these patients were on steroids, for example, and quite high doses. 75% were on 5-ASA, which is the first-line treatment for this indication. 35% were on other immunomodulators, and 40% had tried TNF-alpha prior to joining the study, but they were not allowed to take that during the study. But a pretty severe patient population. About 1/3, or 43 patients in the placebo group, and 81 in the active arm that received 30 milligrams of cobitolimod. And this is just 4 weeks after one dose of 30 milligrams of cobitolimod. And if we focus on the far right, we have the endpoint which the FDA now endorses for phase 3 studies, registration studies, which is also the endpoint we are planning to use in our upcoming phase 2b study, where the patient to be defined as being in remission, or the definition of remission, is no blood in stool, less than 5 toilet visits per day, and during an endoscopy, the colon should not be inflamed or only mildly inflamed. So you go in and actually make a visual inspection of the state of the inflammation. If you pull those together in a combined score, we have about a little bit more than 20% of the cobitolimod treated patients that went into remission, and about 2% in the placebo group, meaning we have a delta of 18.7% or 19%, to be compared to the currently approved biologics that are around 10%, and the late-stage industry pipeline, which is between 10 and 20%. So it's a competitive delta achieved with a significantly better safety profile. So the phase 2b study we're now planning is a 5-arm study, 215 patients, a bit more than 40 patients per arm. We are looking to we're looking at both dose strength and dose frequency, which is the reason why we have so many arms. So there are 3 different dose strengths, A, B, and C, for IP purposes. I can't disclose it. That is given at baseline and at 3 weeks. And then we have the middle dose, which we are giving every week for 3 weeks, meaning four doses. So really, dose strength, 3 different dose strengths and 2 different dose frequencies. Primary endpoint at week 6, the primary endpoint being then the endpoint I just described in the previous slide. And we think we can get to top-line data in 18 months from the first patient in. And then we follow them up for 6 months for long-term follow-up. So this is now FDA has approved this design. We are still working on the financing, although we have strong owners. This does become quite an expensive adventure. So we are looking for various ways to complement the financing from the existing shareholders. So in summary, cobitolimod is a safer and more efficacious alternative to biologics in a severe indication with unmet medical need, meaning a significant commercial opportunity. The upcoming phase 2b dose range study is FDA approved and designed to provide a substantially higher efficacy than we've seen ourselves and the current industry pipeline. We have a unique and novel mechanism of action, extensive clinical experience, 250 patients dosed. We're late stage. We've been to both EMA and FDA, so we have the regulatory path to market clear. And the commercial opportunity is also underscored by the very significant licensing transactions and acquisitions that have been done in this therapeutic field in the last 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.